After defeating the Pygmy Princess with the help of Queen Sensei,
Yeah, boy.
Okarun and the gang discovered that someone had been ordering Koki to stab Momo with a Kozuka knife to steal her powers. Meanwhile, Seiko sought help from her fellow cursed object collectors to find out if there was a way to return a pygmy to normal size. Now, Seiko has begun her quest to find a way to help her granddaughter return to normal, while the gang prepares a plan to catch the mysterious figure who gave Koki the Kozuka knife. What challenges await them as they search for clues behind everything that is happening? Let's find out. Let's continue the story in chapter 177, titled Let's Do Some Kung Fu. After a Jiangshi kicked away her friends, they then targeted her. Two zombies ganged up on her while making karate sounds, but using her expertise in hand-to-hand combat, Seiko easily parried all the attacks sent her way and countered in response with her wrist elbow to the neck combo. When she managed to stop one Jiangshi from attacking, she kicked it forcefully towards its fellow creatures, causing several of them to fall. While kicking, she shouted at them to bring it on while calling them asshats, whereupon they all ran toward her simultaneously. Then two Jiangshi emerged from the kitchen side, and these two tried to kick her while shouting "Acha." While picking up a machine unit, she told them not to "Acha Acha" at her, and after that, she threw the machine unit at them while shouting for these dumbass to cool their heads, which might have been a pun since what she threw might actually be a cooling unit. Another Jiangshi tried to scratch her from behind, but she just sat on a chair and easily dodged it, and as a counter, she kicked it in the eye with the tip of her heels, whereas a follow-up she pushed the chair onto the zombie to lower its body and then kneed it in the face. Afterward, she quickly sat on the fallen zombie in the chair, and while another undead was charging, she forcefully kicked the chair toward it, causing it to fall face first and land on the zombie in the chair. Following this, she struck several zombies while shouting "Nessie," which sent them flying into the wall. Thinking there were no more Jiangshi, Seiko picked up her shoulder bag, but when she grabbed it, suddenly a Jiangshi also grabbed and pulled on it. After they stared at each other briefly, she immediately kicked it in the chin while shouting "numbnuts." Because of that, the zombie released her back, while the other zombies there stood up again and started charging at her once more. As a solution for these creatures, Seiko grabbed a spray bottle to sterilize them, as well as a boiling teapot to hit their faces as a refill. The Jiangshi continued charging at her while she was giving these bastards an instant exorcism. While this was happening, a muscular being arrived on the scene, and soon after, it charged at Seiko using what seemed like a curled ball body attack, which sent her flying forcefully and destroyed a large portion of the dining area. It turns out that the perpetrator was a creature that looked like a minotaur because it had the head of a bull and the body of a bodybuilder. Seiko was irritated by this creature, while it commented that it could see she was a master of movement. The creature posed as if preparing, and Seiko commented that she was just an old broad while throwing a teapot forcefully at it. However, the bull monster easily kicked away her throw while questioning her statement about being just an old broad. Following that, the monster delivered an axe kick while saying that Seiko was marvelous, where Seiko easily dodged it, and as a counter, she kicked it in the nether regions while saying thanks. Unfortunately, her kick to the bull's family jewels seemed to have no effect, making her comment on how hard it was, to which the monster thanked her.
Hey, that's pretty good.
While the bull was trying to punch her, it told her that he was iron, or perhaps he was implying that he was made of iron. After dodging its punch, Seiko quickly grabbed a broken 2x4 from the floor and shouted "Nessie" while striking the monster's side with that wood. However, to her surprise, it still did nothing and the 2x4 just broke while the bull started explaining that the more you hit iron, the stronger it becomes, which made Seiko's eyes widen. The bull started jumping up and down while raising and lowering its hands as if throwing a tantrum, and this caused their ground to break and sent debris flying towards Seiko. While Seiko was still distracted blocking the flying wood, the monster quickly tripped her, throwing her off balance. As a follow-up, the monster prepared to deliver a powerful double kick, and soon after it connected, causing Seiko to fly into the wall, where the force created a large crater. The bull followed up with a hammer fist toward her body while shouting "hot," which forced her down to the ground. The monster then rained down numerous punches while she was still lying on the ground, and it started explaining that whether she strikes him, he strikes himself, or he strikes her, he'll just become stronger. After that, he pleaded for her to be careful when striking him so she wouldn't hurt her hands, because down there gets hot. When he said that, he followed his barrage of punches with an attack like a cannonball dive that landed on Seiko's body, causing several explosions on the ground. Seiko appeared motionless after receiving all those attacks, while the monster stood up and cooled off his body. He arrogantly asked if it was right that he was strong, and now he said Seiko should accept her defeat. While pulling out a small blade similar to the one given by the mysterious teacher to Koki, he added that if she accepts it, he would let her live, so she should just accept her defeat. Seiko remained unresponsive while lying on the ground. To the bull monster's surprise, he was suddenly attacked by Seiko's two friends using their respective powers of fire and darkness, which sent this large lump of muscle flying toward the Jiangshi. The power of these two seemed to create a yin-yang symbol after their strike, while Seiko finally regained consciousness and witnessed what was happening. The bull was visibly irritated by this, and Kashimoto couldn't believe they would just kick them out of nowhere, while Payase expressed his anger because they didn't think about what would happen if the cursed object he was holding got destroyed. It turns out that these two also had their own powers, where Payase appeared to have darkness powers that could give him a darkness suit, while Kashimoto had the power of a fire phoenix that helps him in battle. Finally, Payase said that it looks like they need to teach them about curses. Let us continue the story in chapter 178, titled The Power of a God. After Payase and Kashimoto demonstrated their powers, they exchanged intense stares with their enemies, the Jiangshi and the bull. Seiko managed to stand up again, albeit weakened, which prompted Payase to ask if she was okay, to which she replied that it felt like she went to the worst osteopathy clinic. Kashimoto said that he understood that, which confused Payase about what exactly he understood, while Seiko warned both of them to be careful, because their enemy's body was made of iron, which meant that when they attack it, it would only become stronger, shocking Payase. The Minotaur shouted that his fortune was great because he encountered 3 powerful personages all at once, which was causing his groin to grow hot. He repeatedly said that it was hot, while his Jiangshi companions began charging forward. Seiko tied up her hair and said she would get her bag while the two of them should hold off the Minotaur, to which Payase commented that this would be difficult, while Kashimoto responded that he had no choice but to exploit a guardian spirit. As the Jiangshi approached them, the image of a rooster began to form on his left side while he uttered the words Afuhumza. After a moment, he sent it towards the charging zombies, which sent them flying effortlessly. Due to that punch, Kashimoto managed to disintegrate the first one it hit. Seiko quickly helped in exterminating the Jiangshi, and she ordered Payase to cover her. More Jiangshi continued to charge, but as they rushed forward, their shadows suddenly pierced through their bodies and went through their crowns, and this happened to them one by one while a black shadow slithered on the ground beneath them. After that, Payase emerged from this shadow and commented that they should be careful of their shadows while the bisected Jiangshi fell. He said that he cloaked himself in darkness, and then he swept away the darkness. The bull with the muscular body prepared to charge while commenting that it was amazing and he wanted that ability too, to which Payase shouted that he was a moron. He pointed out to him that his body was like a Kodaku curse poison, which wasn't just some power that could be used by this twerp of a bull. Payase sent his thorn attack towards the Minotaur, and he tried to target its groin. However, it didn't work and didn't even pierce through the monster's briefs, which made him comment about how hard it was down there. As a counter, the Minotaur suddenly grabbed him by the arm and started pulling him out of the ground he was sticking to. After that, it delivered a powerful left hook to his body, and due to its strength, it managed to separate his body from his darkness bodysuit. While Payase was being thrown back, Seiko and Kashimoto charged forward, where Kashimoto told Seiko to stay back. He prepared to send another Afuhumza attack, and it solidly hit the Minotaur's face. He followed it with consecutive powered-up punches with boxer-like moves, which made Paise shout that his attack was working. However, Seiko told him not to lower his guard, but it was too late when she said that because at that moment, the Minotaur had already managed to stop Kashimoto using a solid right straight to his body. The monster's fist was imprinted on Kashimoto's body while it commented that he was marvelous and challenged him to strike more. This worried Paise and made him pause briefly in helping Seiko, so she immediately shouted at him not to stop. She told him to take care of the small fried jiangshi, which annoyed him. While fighting, Seiko noticed that she was close to her bag, so when Paise sent his thorn attack at the zombies, she quickly ran towards it. Paise continued helping her create a pathway, while she remained focused on reaching her bag. When she got close to it, she jumped to avoid the last jiangshi in her path. However, as she reached for her bag, she received a powerful kick from the Minotaur that slammed her into the wall and made her drop her bag. The monster commented that her movements were suspicious and he could see that some trickery was coming with that bag. While it was still facing Seiko, Kashimoto tried to send another Afuhumza, but the Minotaur easily noticed and stopped him while shouting not to get his hopes up. After that, the Minotaur kicked Seiko's bag upward to catch it, but when he was about to catch it, Paise sneakily tried to grab it from the Minotaur's shadows. Unfortunately, the Minotaur still managed to stop him by destroying the ground while commenting that he had now reached the state of ultimate hotness. Because of this, Paise dropped the bag and it started flying, which caught the Minotaur's attention. Seiko tried to get it, but she was quickly stopped by the monster with a bear hug to her body, leaving her with no choice but to scream in pain. The monster shouted that he had caught her, while she could only groan in pain as the monster's embrace gradually tightened. The Minotaur said she should accept her defeat, because if not, he would continue crushing her with his bear hug until her organs burst and scattered. Suddenly, Seiko shouted for Kashimoto to do what he needed to do, which caught the monster's attention, whereupon Kashimoto quickly rushed from behind and immediately used his Afuhumza on the Minotaur. It hit solidly and Seiko endured the heat from this attack, while the monster shouted that they should just surrender because Kashimoto's attack was going through him and affecting Seiko as well. Furthermore, he said those attacks were only making him stronger and harder. Seiko shouted at Kashimoto not to stop despite the damage she was taking from this, so Kashimoto pushed through with all his strength. The Minotaur commented again and said that his attack didn't hurt at all, not even an itch could be felt, and he shouted that he was iron and the more you attack him, the stronger he becomes. However, unexpectedly for the monster, while Kashimoto continued delivering his fiery attack, Paise quickly followed up with his Darkness Hands attack, which shattered and cut through its heating arms. The Minotaur screamed in shock and pain at what he endured, and he began to disbelieve what was happening. He thought he had built up to the ultimate level of hardness, so he asked how did this happen? Paise answered him that the stronger the light becomes, the deeper the darkness grows. Kashimoto also asked this monster if he knew why humans feel things like pain, cold, and heat, and it was because so they wouldn't die. He explained that if a person doesn't realize when they've reached their limit, their body will end up in ruins before they know it, just like what happened to the monster's body now. The monster shouted that this couldn't be, because the more they attacked him, the hotter and stronger he became. Kashimoto questioned what he said about getting hot and how odd that was. He explained that his flames could go down to absolute zero, and he called it ice flame. When iron's temperature drops, he said it becomes more susceptible to hydrogen penetration and cracks more easily. Seiko slowly stood up while reaching for something in her bag and asking if this monster knew how much he had made her suffer. Seiko pulled out a talisman that wards off evil spirits and misfortune, and she said it had been quite a while since she was beaten up like this, while calling the monster a son of a bitch. While placing this talisman on the monster's face, she pointed out that he said he wanted to fight someone tough. The monster begged her to wait and said this wasn't who he wanted to destroy, and when he was about to say who he was actually pursuing, it was cut off when Seiko kicked him in the face while adding that if that's the case, then this asshole should fight a god. We will continue the story in chapter 179, titled This Seems Kinda Deadly. After Seiko kicked the iron minotaur in the head where she had placed the talisman, it caused its head to shatter, which surprised Payase and Kashimoto. Seiko also seemed surprised by what she saw afterwards, and it appears that the minotaur's body reverted back to that of a human who looked like an average-looking guy with an office job. The man immediately pleaded for them to spare him and not kill him. Payase was irritated and asked what was up with this man, while Kashimoto asked him if he knew how many times he had hurt him, calling him an asshole. The man kept apologizing and even bowed while doing so, while Seiko irritatedly asked why he was targeting her. The man explained to her that he was contacted by an orchestrator, and while showing her his phone, a text said the words Nikujuru Gyoza, second floor, woman with glasses, which caught her attention. Seiko then realized something and acted quickly, which puzzled her two friends. She went out looking for something, and when she went outside, she only saw a crowd of people who had gathered and seemed to be gossiping. However, there was one particular individual wearing a hooded jacket who was enveloped in a strange aura. Seiko pointed out that the man who attacked them had an accomplice, which made Payase realize that she was referring to the one who controlled the Jiangshi. Seiko cursed asshole in annoyance and asked who they were. While holding the man by the back of his collar, Kashimoto ordered him to contact his friend and bring him there, but the man explained that he couldn't do that and that he had just met him, which puzzled Kashimoto. They only had a connection through the orchestrator, and they hadn't even seen the face of that orchestrator yet. Because of that, Seiko wondered if they were in the same situation as the one who escaped, while the man commented that the messages were sent to everyone, so sometimes there's some overlap with the targets. Kashimoto then prepared to send his Afuhumza attack, while ordering the man to explain the situation in a way they could understand. So the man became nervous again and said to wait a moment as he took something out of his suit pocket. He said he would show it to them right then and there. Seiko's eyes widened when she saw the 3 small knives that looked like the knife the mysterious teacher had given to Koki on the man's hand. Payase immediately noticed that they were Kozuka knives, while Seiko wondered why this man had them and why there were so many copies. Kashimoto was puzzled about what those things were, so Seiko began to explain about the Azura. Whoever held the sword in his hand would continue to kill other people until his life ended. Moreover, the Azura could take over the power of yokai and kill any master swordsman present. That sword was extremely dangerous, so an organization of magi decided to seal it away securely. However, 5 years ago, someone stole it, and the Kozuka they were holding now were from that sword. The man told them that their instructions were to use those to gather the power of yokai, and the people who could gather a lot would have any wish they wanted come true. This irritated Payase, who angrily asked how the hell a wish could come true and if he was a child. So Kashimoto told him to be quiet for now, but added that this man was attacking people for such a stupid reason. Kashimoto pointed out that if Payase kept talking, they wouldn't be able to get information, but Payase kept grilling the man, saying that he was even wearing a necktie as if he owned the place and telling this man to speak up while calling him a son of a bitch. Before long, the man told them that his wife only had 1 year left to live, which silenced Payase. He explained that ever since he was a child, he had difficulty talking to women. Even when he tried, he would get nervous and clam up. Because he thought they could sense his nervousness, he would panic even more, and all he could do was run away. Even after 40 years, that hadn't changed, so he figured he would never have anything to do with women. However, a specific woman, her wife, patiently waited for him to get his words out. Slowly but surely, she gave him her time, he said, and thanks to this woman, he was saved. The man started crying, and he said that even if there was only a 1% chance of saving his wife, he would take it. Seiko felt sorry for him and softened her feelings towards this man, calmly saying numbnuts and asking what else he could say and how he became acquainted with the orchestrator he mentioned. The man explained that a colleague at work introduced him to the orchestrator, telling him that if he performed a certain task, it would help his wife's situation. When he called the number given to him, it put him through to that person. Kashimoto asked who the work colleague he was referring to was, but suddenly the man's head started hurting just like what happened to Koki, and he said he didn't know. Then, The man suddenly said that such a person never existed, which puzzled Seiko. He explained that no one he asked knew the person he had spoken to, and that person's name was not in the company register. Based on his memories, he had worked with that mysterious colleague for a long time, but despite that, he couldn't remember his face, clothes, or anything about that person. While the man was explaining this, we suddenly switched to the situation of Count Saint-Germain, better known at school as Mr. Saint-Germain, who was watching a video on a computer. A teacher approached him and asked if he had seen Mr. Adachi, to which he only asked why it was important. The teacher answered that they were going to have a singles mixer and invited him to join as well. He thought about it for a bit and agreed, saying he would like that. It was shown to us that the video he was watching on the computer was one explaining that the name basketball originated from the fact that a peach basket was originally used for the goal. After that, we returned to the street where Nakujira Gyoza was located, and the crowd of people gathered there had grown, and a police car had also arrived. It appears that Bega was one of the police officers who arrived here, and he interviewed the staff of the aforementioned restaurant. The male staff member told him that there were 20 people upstairs earlier, but when he noticed how quiet it was, he went up there. And when he peeked in, he said he only saw the middle-aged man there alone. Bega asked if there were any other people before that happened, to which the staff member answered yes and pointed out that there was a kind of beautiful woman and 2 young men. Where were those people now? Bega asked further, so the staff member said he didn't know. They had paid their bills, but he didn't know when they left. Bega observed the people around them, and when he looked to his right, he noticed Seiko, Payase, and Kashimoto talking behind the crowd that had gathered due to the commotion. We then went to the conversation between the three, where Seiko explained that she needed to tidy up the business with her granddaughter first, to which Kashimoto said that was fine and that they would continue investigating. Seiko then said that they should be careful because she felt that what they were going to do was really dangerous, so Kashimoto said they would contact her every quarter. Bega approached them and asked if they could give him a minute to talk. He pointed out to them that they matched the description of the people upstairs in the restaurant, so he wanted to ask them some questions. However, when his eyes returned to the three, they suddenly vanished before him, which puzzled him. It appears that Payase used his powers to lift the 3 of them to the top of the adjacent building to escape from this policeman. We continue the story in Chapter 180, titled The Owner of the Kozuka Knives. Here, Koki came from her classroom, and as she left, she immediately noticed Sakata. The whole group was also there, pretending they weren't watching her so they don't gather attention. Koki stared at them, but she soon walked away. Sakata commented that movement has commenced, to which Momo called him a pervert and asked what happened during the last break. Using the nanoskin hairpin and glasses, Sakata observed Koki and her surroundings. He explained that Koki had already interacted with 3 teachers. However, he told them to stay calm because they had just set the bait. Momo then asked him which 3 teachers he was referring to. So, he said that one of them was Queen Sensei, and they apparently discussed everything that had happened recently. The other one was Miss Adachi, who was in charge of Class E, and they talked about classroom things. And the last person Koki spoke with was Mr. Saint-Germain, who ordered her to tell him what secret she had spotted. This caught Momo's attention, and she commented how suspicious it was, while Okarun added that if he recalled correctly, the teacher had also talked to him about the secrets he had spotted. Sakata told them not to be hasty, calling them amateurs. From the beginning, he said that Saint-Germain was strange, disappearing and appearing like a phantom, so they couldn't make good guesses if they remained stuck on preconceived notions. Additionally, he mentioned that the teacher hadn't said anything about knives or powers, so they had no evidence to conclude that he was the culprit. Suddenly, Ira approached him to take his glasses and check the footage herself because she didn't believe his conclusion, which made him lose his composure and become giddy because a beautiful girl was removing his glasses. When Ira removed the glasses, their shape started to change, which surprised her. Sakata took back his glasses and told Ira not to do that. He explained that they were made of nanoskin, so they changed appearance according to the mental images of the person holding them. This made Ira flustered and concerned. She said Sakata should have told her immediately because the glasses morphed into the shape of Okarune's, which made Momo sneer and made Okarune wonder if that really happened. Ira started throwing tantrums and cutely said not to think that this meant she always had Okarune on her mind, which made Momo even more jealous. Okarune commented that his glasses were right in front of Ira, so that might be why she visualized them, to which Ira embarrassedly shouted that she was really thinking what she was thinking. Okarune tried to calm Ira down by explaining that he knew it would give the wrong impression, but before he could finish explaining, Ira shouted again that it wasn't the wrong impression, which made Momo give her a side-eye. While this was happening, we moved to the hallway where the lockers were, and Miss Adachi encountered a male teacher. He asked if she went out, to which Miss Adachi agreed and explained that her mother wasn't feeling well earlier, but she was okay now. The male teacher showed sympathy towards her and said that if there was anything he could do to help, she should let him know, to which Miss Adachi thanked him for his concern, addressing him as Mr. Murakami. Mr. Murakami blushed at this and suddenly remembered that they were planning a basketball singles mixer, so he asked if Miss Adachi would like to join them to take her mind off things for a while. Miss Adachi responded that she was fine and that she wasn't an athlete, but Mr. Murakami insisted and told her not to worry because they were very laid back there. He was positive that she'd have a lot of fun there, so he told her to let him know if she changed her mind, to which Miss Adachi agreed. As Miss Adachi was walking away, Mr. Murakami added that they would really love it if she joined them. After Miss Adachi had left, her smile disappeared, and she immediately took out her phone. A text message was shown to us here, and it was identical to the text message received by the mail office worker whom Seiko and others had spoken with, and Miss Adachi replied with failed, and woman wasn't alone. Next, we were shown numerous Jiangshi following her, which seemed to indicate that Miss Adachi was the one controlling them in the previous battle. After that, we moved to the hallway where many students were chatting. Hase approached two girls here and brushed their hair to tease them and ask what they were doing, which irritated the girls. He teasingly asked why they were talking on their phones when they were face-to-face, so one girl responded by asking what business it was of his and told him to leave. Hase asked if they were hiding something from him and repeatedly pestered them to show him their phones, but they refused. However, Hase managed to peek at one of their phones, and he read that they were discussing how Okarune had been looking hot to them recently. Hase couldn't believe that these girls had a crush on Okarune, which shocked and irritated the girls when they realized he had read it. One girl told the other girl that they should separate for now, where Hase tried to stop one of them by grabbing her arm and arrogantly saying that couldn't they see he was just messing around. However, unexpectedly for Hase, the girl pulled her arm away and shouted at him not to touch her while calling him a creep. As the two girls walked away, Hase shouted at them that it wasn't funny while calling them skanks and that they were so lame. He also noticed that the other students who saw them were looking at him unfavorably, which irritated him and made him leave while saying that these plebs shouldn't look at him. Hase was furious and said he was so sick of Okarune. He saw Okarune outside, and his eyes flashed with anger. He said that ever since he lost to him, nothing's been going his way. He was irritably wondering how a twerp like him became better than him, and he said he wouldn't stand for it. He reached into his pocket and took out a Kozuka knife. While he was examining it, we were shown a flashback where he suddenly heard a voice asking if he wanted power while he was washing his face. This made him ask his companions if they had said anything, to which they just wondered what he was talking about. The voice spoke to him again and said that only he could hear him, which made him start to feel shocked and scared. The voice ordered him to listen and asked if he wanted to defeat a specific boy. This voice placed two Kozuka knives on top of where they had washed their faces earlier and told him to try hurting himself using the white blade, saying he would get special powers. The voice asked if he wanted to know why the person he was referring to was better than him, and pointed out that it was because he also had special powers. Hase shouted if the voice was referring to Okarune, and the voice said he was correct, and that was the reason why he was so unlucky now. The voice said that was so unfair and even frustrating to think about, also pointing out that he needs to take his power. The voice told him to use the black blade it showed, but to be careful, and when he used it, he should make sure to make him admit defeat first. If not, he wouldn't be able to steal his powers, so it pointed out again that he needed to make him admit defeat first. We return to the present where Hase was staring at the blade he received, and he started thinking that maybe he was going crazy because why would he believe in such things? He decided here to try it to convince himself that this was all some kind of joke. He positioned the white Kozuka knife against his thumb, and soon after, he cut himself with it. However, it seemed like nothing happened to him after that. He just laughed at this and commented that he knew it wasn't real. He said that at first he believed it, and also wondered who could have thought of such an elaborate plan. He just called himself an idiot because he fell for it, but the cut he made on his finger still hurt. Unexpectedly, he suddenly felt an eerie aura crawl to his body, and it turns out that the white Kozuka knife had worked on him when a creepy yokai appeared that looked like the yokai in Count Saint-Germain's move called Jumping Crone. We continue the story in chapter 181, titled, Must Be the Influence of a Curse. Here, as 3 female students were leaving through the gate, they were confronted by delinquents. Other students who were leaving saw this, which made them anxious. Inside the school, while walking out, Okarun said he was wondering if Seiko would take their training seriously, and Momo, who was on Vamola's shoulder, replied that it would be fine and she even took Gigi seriously. Okarun explained that it was because Gigi had natural talent, and before he could continue being negative, Momo told him he was worrying too much. When they reached the doorway leading outside, they were puzzled to see a crowd of students gathered there. They heard comments from them saying it was scary, and it seemed like these people were looking for someone. When Okarun and the others saw what the commotion was about, Momo quickly noticed that the men at the gate appeared to be from Renjaku. One of the female students turned to Okarun when she heard this and asked if he knew them, to which he replied somewhat. The girl pointed out that because these people were hanging around the gate, everyone was afraid to go home, so if he knew them, he should do something about it. Okarun immediately agreed and said he would talk to them, which surprised their classmates, while Momo frowned and said these guys were a pain in the ass. They couldn't believe that he would personally talk to the Renkaju people, which enhanced his awesome image, and some were even worried if Vamola would be okay. When Okarun and the others approached them, he calmly and politely said they were in the way, but while he was explaining that their loitering was causing problems, he was immediately cut off when one of the older-looking men there glared at him while asking what this little shit was saying, while others were asking Vamola what her name was, to which Momo instructed her not to tell them, so she didn't. Before long, one of the Renjaku members recognized Okarun because of his glasses, and another shouted to their companions that they had found him. Then, someone exclaimed finally, and said that they made them go through a lot of trouble. A guy approached them and immediately asked where the tough chick who was with him was, to which all 3 of them stared at him. Okarun asked Momo who this man was, to which she replied she didn't know and also asked who he was, which made Vamola ask the man who he was. Because of this, the man removed his glasses and explained it was him, and he had just been in the hospital for a long time, so his hair had grown. Momo smiled and Okarun also realized who he really was, which made Momo shout that he was Zuma. She happily said that he was doing well now, but what were the glasses he was wearing for? Because of this, Zuma started to panic and ask where that voice was coming from, while Vamola was commenting that she was happy to meet him and Momo was trying to get his attention. Momo jumped up and down and waved her hands to make Zuma look at where she was, but he couldn't see her, so he started to get nervous because he said he was hearing voices here, which was starting to scare him. In response, Momo used her powers and kicked him in the face while shouting when would Zuma figure out the situation. Zuma caught her and was shocked when he saw how small she was and asked what had happened, while she said with a straight face that finally he could see her. Momo explained that she was small because of a curse. She said she had eaten treats from the cursed trunk. Momo was also puzzled by this because she remembered that Zuma had also eaten treats, but he was fine. Zuma told her that in fact, he was looking for her because of a curse, which caught her attention. He said that ever since the things they experienced happened, his eyes have gone bad. And while adding that there's a more important issue, he showed Momo an elderly man, whom Momo immediately recognized as the man from the cursed trunk. Zuma said his name was Daiki Hakono, and he was aging at an unnatural rate. He said his dad saw Daiki's house, and they went there together. However, when they arrived there, we were shown that his parents just got angry because they thought they were pranking them since Daiki wasn't supposed to be an old man. Zuma explained that only 4 years had passed since Daiki disappeared, which caught Okarun's attention. Momo remembered that this was because time moved faster inside the cursed trunk. Zuma continued his explanation, saying that of course they wouldn't believe that the person with them was Daiki. All he did was receive a gift from his parents for his birthday, and he liked it. If you thought about it, he said it was so sad. So, he decided that he wanted to do whatever he could to help him. While they were talking, we went to Ira and Gigi, where Ira asked where Okarun was, so Gigi answered that he said they would wait at the entrance. When they reached the door, they also found many students hanging around there. Gigi immediately asked what was going on. So some girls there explained that there were delinquents loitering near their gate, and Okarun went to talk to them about leaving, but they had been talking there for a long time. Gigi noticed Momo while she was standing on Zuma's palm, which worried him. Gigi acted quickly because he thought she was in danger and removed his uniform and bag. On Momo's side, while she was saying that she understood what Zuma said and for now they should go to their house, Gigi suddenly called out to her. Ira's hair coiled around Zuma's wrist, which surprised him, and Gigi immediately snatched Momo from his palm. Momo was being shaken inside Gigi's hand, while Zuma noticed Ira's approaching follow-up attack, so he quickly used his power to block her. They all stared at each other after Ira and Gigi's quick assault. Ira told them that Zuma was a power user, while Gigi ordered Okarun to watch over Momo, so Okarun tried to explain the situation, but it was too late. Zuma's companions got angry and shouted asking who they thought they were, and if they wanted to die. A heavy atmosphere surrounded the area because of this incident, and Gigi angrily asked Zuma who he was. Ira added that it was suspicious for a power user to appear right after Yukishiro's defeat. Zuma was also annoyed by their treatment, so he decided to transform as well, and said he would make them cry while calling them bitches. The three of them fought simultaneously, where while Zuma was controlling his umbrellas and blocking Ira's attacks, he was shouting at them to return Momo, to which Gigi countered while charging that Momo wasn't his property. In an instant, they suddenly reverted to their normal form, which puzzled the three. It turned out Vamola had stepped between them, while Okarun tried to stop Gigi by hugging him. Zuma and Ira were bewildered by how their transformation reverted, while Gigi asked Vamola why she stopped him. Before long, we were shown that Momo had used her power on these two and held both their souls. She angrily shouted at them that they were all on the same page, and this wasn't the place for them to just transform suddenly like dumbasses. Gigi was dumbfounded when he heard this and asked if it was true, as did Ira and Zuma. Annoyed, Momo ordered them to apologize to each other, while Vamola happily said they should all get along. Because of this, the three simultaneously apologized to each other, while Okarun still felt the intensity of his restraining them. We continue the story in chapter 182, titled Something's Taken the Bait. We then return to a point in time where we see a woman's body lying on the ground. She regained consciousness and gradually attempted to stand up. When she managed to lift her face and body, we were given a close-up look at her face, which had scars all over her body and different colored pupils where the left one resembled a target. This woman appeared bewildered when she saw herself in the ruined area where Momo and Vamola had previously passed through while trying to find a shortcut to their school. Someone spoke beside her saying that she seemed to be awake, and when she turned to look, she saw Count Saint-Germain standing next to her. The woman immediately assumed a defensive stance, preparing to attack. Count Saint-Germain caught her attention by asking if the item that had fallen there belonged to her. When the woman turned to look, we're shown a suit that appeared similar to the one worn by the human-like alien, which also resembled a xenomorph whom Okarun and his friends had fought during the space globalist arc. Count Saint-Germain explained to her that it was no longer in good condition and suggested that she should get a new one. The woman asked what Count Saint-Germain wanted from her, to which he replied that there was something he needed her help with. She asked what would happen if she refused, to which he responded that he wouldn't do anything in particular and would simply leave. After that, he asked her what she thought and if she believed she could survive alone on this strange planet without a suit. He pointed out to her that she must have noticed how heavy Earth's gravity was and asked if she wasn't having difficulty standing. He asked if he could help her, to which the woman just stared at him seriously. Afterward, the scene shifted to a street, where there was a heavy atmosphere as Okarune's group and Zuma's group stared at each other. There seemed to be lingering tension that they couldn't shake off from their first encounter. Ira and Gigi's glaring eyes toward Zuma and his companion wouldn't subside. Because of this, Momo shouted at them, asking how long they planned to walk around in a huff. Ira responded that she couldn't trust Zuma yet, to which Zuma replied that it was fine and he didn't care, which irritated Ira and made her comment on how annoying he was. Soon after, they arrived at Momo's house, and when Momo saw the van parked there, she wondered whose it was. Manjiro suddenly appeared in front of them, and Momo was delighted to see him. Manjiro mentioned that it had been quite a while since their last meeting, while Gigi happily asked what he was doing there. Gigi inquired if the Evil Eyes briefs were causing any problems, to which Manjiro shook his head and said everything was quiet, mentioning also the number of tourists coming to see the briefs, which puzzled Gigi. Shortly after, Seiko arrived there carrying 2 luggage bags and called out to Momo and Vamola saying they needed to leave. Momo became concerned about her wounds and immediately asked who had done that to her, but she brushed it off and told them to just get ready. Gigi and Vamola were also worried if she was okay and if it hurt, so she told them not to worry. Momo interrupted and said to wait, asking where they were going. Seiko pointed out that they were heading to Shimane and that they might be able to return Momo to normal, so they should hurry, which surprised Okarune and Momo's faces. Momo happily jumped from Vamola's chest pocket while asking if she was serious, which made her friends cheer with joy, while Seiko rushed them to get in the van saying there was no time left. Okarune then asked if he could come along and offered to pay for his own travel expenses. Gigi and Ira also expressed the same desire, with Gigi wanting to see Momo return to normal, while the latter admitted she was going because Okarune was coming. Seiko responded that it was up to them, but they needed to hurry, while Momo shouted at them to move quickly while calling them bastards. Gigi quickly ran back to their house to get his things, while Ira wondered if she still had lotion, and Vamola was excited because they would all be traveling together. When Seiko noticed Zuma and his companions, she asked who they were, so Momo explained to her that they wanted to have the elderly person with them checked, while Zuma and his companion were surprised when Momo called Seiko Granny. Momo pointed out that they were with her in the curse trunk previously, which caught her attention. Zuma explained that the person he was carrying was only in 7th grade when he entered the trunk, and his aging seemed to have accelerated now. Because of this, Seiko decided to invite them along, suggesting it was likely an effect of the same curse that was placed on Momo. Zuma hesitated and said to wait, pointing out that he didn't have that kind of money, so Seiko retorted asking who said the children would pay, and told him to be quiet and just come along. Sakata then arrived there riding his hoverboard, shouting that there was an emergency. In his rush, he fell off the hoverboard, which startled Zuma, while Momo worriedly asked what the problem was. Sakata responded that they had found the teacher who was blackmailing Koki, which caught their attention. He explained that the teacher had taken Koki to the gym, and currently, the class representative was monitoring the situation. Seiko asked them what was happening and told them to get in, to which Momo asked for a moment. She explained that her acquaintance was in serious trouble and asked if they could delay their departure. Seiko shouted that it wasn't possible because there would be a supermoon tomorrow. She explained that they needed to be in time for the Hours of the Ox during the supermoon. Ira volunteered to stay behind and let them leave, which worried Momo. Because of this, Ira reassured her that they should leave it to her and just make sure that Momo returns to normal. Shortly after, Okarune also volunteered to stay behind, to which Ira turned to look at him and get all giddy. Okarune explained that he had been waiting a long time to see Momo return to normal, and he deeply wished to witness it happen, but apologized because he needed to do this in this situation. Momo happily said she understood that, adding that she would be with her granny Seiko anyway, so he should just help their friends. Sakata and Aira shouted at Okarun to hurry because Koki might be in danger, to which he agreed. Before leaving, Okarun wished for Momo to return to normal and make it back home. Momo responded with a blush that she understood, with matching peace signs, which gave Okarun a soft feeling. After that, Sakata, Aira, and Okarun quickly headed to their school gym to reach Koki. Inside the gym, while Rin was secretly monitoring the situation, we were suddenly shown a muscular man behind her. We continue the story in chapter 183, titled So It's You. Okarun, Sakata, and Aira continued rushing toward the school. Aira asked Sakata about Koki's current situation, to which he replied that he didn't know. He said that after she went to the gym, the video transmission from her hair ornament was cut off. Next, she told the two guys to remain outside, which prompted Okarun to tell her that it was dangerous. Sakata then pointed out that, however, didn't he say he couldn't use his powers at the moment? Aira transformed into her acro silky form and told Okarun that she would enter first, so they prepared themselves for whatever might greet them. Upon entering, Aira only saw a quiet place and the door leading to the gym itself, while Okarun and Sakata waited on the edge of their seats for what might happen. Aira carefully observed her surroundings, and before long, something suddenly exploded outside where the two guys were, startling her. Okarun and Sakata were thrown back, but fortunately, Sakata had activated a defensive mechanism. He shouted that there was a surprise attack to inform Aira, adding that if it weren't for his airbags, they would surely have been finished. When they turned to see who had done this, they saw Hase and an alien wearing a flying exosuit. This might be the woman Count Saint-Germain had spoken to and given a new body weapon to eliminate Okarun and his companions. Meanwhile, Aira entered the gym and saw numerous bodies whose heads were floating in the air like balls. When she looked closely, they appeared to be the heads of people whose life force were sipped out of them, which made her question what she was seeing. The scoreboard began to move, and suddenly one of the heads there blew a whistle, causing many bodies to prepare to move. They jumped high and each grabbed a floating head. When they landed on the floor, they held them tightly, and soon they forcefully threw them toward Aira as if playing dodgeball, which alarmed her. Fortunately, she managed to dodge the first barrage of attacks, but several bodies began to block her path. They tried to grab her, but due to her agility and nimbleness, they couldn't catch her. She commented that if those were the moves they would use, they would never be ready to dance with her. She shouted "Endure" while kicking the approaching bodies one by one, and then followed it with her move called Pirouette Noble Drill, wrapping her leg with her hair to create a drill and piercing through the multitude of enemies. The bodies she hit seemed to be destroyed and torn apart, but to her shock, she saw them regenerating. Before long, the bodies returned to normal. This surprised her that even that attack had no effect on them, and while dodging, she thought that this was just like their fight with Koki. These enemies were likely unbeatable unless she could take down the power holder. She continued evading, and upon reaching the balcony, she wondered where Koki and Rin were since they should have been there. While observing the many heads floating in the air, she suddenly noticed something. Her eyes widened when she saw Rin's head floating, while Kawabunga was crying beside her, extremely worried. Her mouth dropped in utter shock and screamed class rep in complete fear and surprise at what she had witnessed. We continue the story in chapter 184, titled The Class Rep's Head. When Iris saw Rin's head, she immediately approached and grabbed it. She asked Kawabanga what happened and how this happened to Rin, to which Kawabanga cried and told her that she needed to help. She pointed to the headless people and said they were responsible. They had taken Rin and slam-dunked her head into the ring, which caused her head to pop off from her body. The multitude of headless people began to attack by forcefully shooting heads, forcing Ira and Kawabanga to start dodging. She also became concerned when particles began emerging from Rin's neck. She then asked if wasn't Kawabanga a yokai, and if so, what were these headless people attacking them? Kawabanga explained that they were called severed head dribblers. When you secretly enter the gym at night to play, these headless basketball players appear and search for balls, specifically heads. After that, the severed head dribblers continued attacking them, causing Kawabanga to tearfully ask what they were going to do, to which Ira replied that she didn't know. As she was saying that they needed to find the individual with the power, someone suddenly called her name. When she looked down, she saw that Rin's severed head had regained consciousness, which surprised her. Rin told her that she was glad she had arrived because Koki was in a dangerous situation. However, Ira was frightened and began to scream that a severed head was talking to her, which was when Rin realized she no longer had a body. Kawabanga felt relieved that she was still alive, while Ira questioned what was happening. Kawabanga explained that Rin was between their world and the afterlife, prompting Ira to ask what kind of state that was, so she explained that Rin was alive, but her body was in the afterlife. As it stands, she added, Rin's life force would continue to spill out from her head until it was depleted, and afterward, she would drift in this space for eternity. While they were dodging, one of their enemies managed to hit where Ira was about to step, causing her to lose balance. The severed head dribblers immediately followed up with attacks, making Kawabanga shout for her to be careful. She tried to shield them, causing Rin to cry out in concern, while Ira moved quickly while calling her a noble fool. She protected Kawabanga, and because of that, she was hit by the enemy's attack. Ira's back was severely hit, while Kawabanga and Rin became worried about her. Ira began to fall and soon completely landed on the floor, while the enemies quickly approached her. She spat due to the impact of the attack and the force of her fall, so they immediately told her to hang on. Kawabanga asked Rin if she could sing, but unfortunately, she couldn't without her body. One of the severed head dribblers reached them and quickly grabbed Ira's head. It began dribbling her head like a basketball, so Kawabanga tried to stop it. The enemy jumped toward the ring and positioned itself to slam dunk Ira's head. When this was about to happen, she remembered what Kawabanga had said about how Rin's body disappeared. We also suddenly went to a point in time where she was playing house. There was a doll here with its body submerged in a bathtub, causing it to look like a floating head. Her playmate, who was holding the spouse of the doll she was holding, thought she had become just a head, to which Ira replied that it seemed she didn't know what was popular in Japanese bath salts these days. When she lifted the doll from the bath, its body was revealed. She also remembered what Kawabanga said about Rin being between their world and the afterlife, and because of this, she seemed to have an idea. Back to the present, before she could be slammed by the severed head dribbler, she grabbed Rin's head using her hair and began to insert it into the ring from below. When she did this, Rin's body started to reveal itself and return to normal. Kawabanga immediately felt hopeful when he saw that Rin was okay, but unfortunately, she was quickly caught by another severed head dribbler. The two enemies simultaneously tried to slam Ira and Rin into the ring, but fortunately, Rin quickly transformed and pushed back the headless people using her powers. She manipulated gravity and made their enemies' bodies float, while Ira was recovering. When Ira landed on the floor, Rin immediately thanked her, which caught her attention, and said that because of her, she could now sing. Instead of being serious, Ira still managed to ask why Rin was dressed that way and how she wasn't embarrassed wearing it. Rin became embarrassed and wished she would stop and hoped she wouldn't mention it. Kawabanga explained that when Rin sings, she can control gravity. Ira was amazed to hear this, but also questioned why she needed to dress that way, which made Rin blush even more in embarrassment. Kawabanga told her that obviously, it was because Rin is a singing and dancing idol. Afterward, the severed head dribblers didn't let up on their attacks and sent quick passes toward Ira, but before they could hit, Rin managed to stop them using her gravitational powers. She quickly told Ira to get behind her, saying she would defend them from the attacks. However, Ira just became serious, and even though she had a large wound on her back, she told Rin not to be honorably ridiculous. She also positioned herself to fight and pointed out that she's the leader here. We continue the story in chapter 185, titled So You're the Perp. Rin continues to use her gravitational powers here to make the severed head dribblers fly, which was followed by Ira's noble drill attack. While he was doing this, he asked Rin if she could make her attack more honorably broader, to to which Rin apologized. She explained here that apparently, the range of effectiveness is fixed, and it doesn't seem possible to extend its scope. Kawabanga then asked Rin if she now sees that her ability to deliver a song is underdeveloped. She said that if she doesn't improve her idol power, then neither her power's range nor her outfits will become amazing, to which Rin shyly and embarrassedly said that she at least want to do something about her outfit ASAP. Ira asked where Koki was because she was tracking her earlier, so Rin said that she lost sight of her at some point, and she didn't know where she was now. Kawabanga immediately shouted that she saw her, and that they should look carefully at the numerous floating heads. She also pointed out that she was being protected by pygmies. Rin was concerned when she heard that she was also just ahead now, while Ira was still wondering where she was. Rin said that even she couldn't see her, and Ira shouted that there was nothing they could do because they couldn't see the pygmies. Rin asked Kawabanga if she could help Koki, to which she agreed, but she said she couldn't use her powers without her. However, Rin chose to save Koki immediately, so she let go of Kawabanga first so that she could go to her while she stayed behind Ira. Unfortunately, Rin immediately felt her powerlessness when all she could do was run from the attacks of the severed head dribblers, so she shouted there that she had changed her mind and that Kawabanga should come back. Ira was struggling to protect both of them while telling her to just run because if they stopped there, they would be overwhelmed by the enemies using their numbers. While this was happening, Kawabanga talked to the pygmies to join her as she knew a way to help Koki. The pygmies immediately held her ear and used their body as a rope for Koki's head using their numbers. Kawabanga told them that she would start moving, so they should hold on tight. She quickly flew away from the other heads after that. Rin shouted at them to go straight to the basket and dunk that head upward, to which Kawabanga put on her game face. 5 severed head dribblers immediately defended against her, but with the help of the pygmies, they made a makeshift body using their small bodies, and they ankle-braked all the defenders there. After that, when they got close to the basket, they prepared to slam dunk, but there were still 3 opponents who joined them in the air. These seemed like they would block Kawabanga and the pygmies' shot, which worried Rin and Ira. However, unexpectedly for these headless players, the pygmies began to separate, and they passed Koki's head underneath. Kawabanga continued to be serious here until Koki was restored, and fortunately, they managed to attach her head under the ring. They successfully inserted her head, which caused her body to return. Koki immediately coughed, indicating that she was still alive, so as Ira rushed forward, he exclaimed that they had managed to save her. Unfortunately, the 3 severed head dribblers immediately jumped again to catch Koki, but due to her speed, Ira managed to grab her friend before they could. Because of that, the enemy tried to hit them again with fast break attacks. While Ira was carrying Rin using her hair, she started screaming in fear, so she immediately told her to start singing. Suddenly, Koki regained consciousness there and started to panic, so she quickly stopped her and talked to her to calm down. When Koki opened her eyes, she saw that Ira was carrying her, while she told her to just hold on because if not, she might get hit by the enemies. Koki immediately got Ira's attention when she told her that those were the ones who blackmailed her. It turns out that Mr. Murakami was the one blackmailing her using her explicit image. He allegedly visited the social media accounts of all female students to find those who were violating school rules, so he could blackmail them into taking pictures in just their underwear. Because of this, Koki deduced that there might be other girls who were given knives like her. Ira commented that this man was a straight-up bastard, and that meant Murakami was also in the gym. She also said that if they defeated him, all of this would end. However, Rin got her attention when she said that it looked like they had a problem again because their enemies had grown bigger. When this was shown to us, they didn't just grow a little, but some of them became as big as the gymnasium they were standing in. They became more concerned when the walls around them started to close in. A giant enemy tried to attack there, but thankfully, Rin produced a shield here. Unfortunately, Ira noticed that her range of gravity had decreased, to which she tried to sing more vigorously. Kawabanga then told her that she can't keep singing without any rest. She said she was just a fledgling idol, and she only had 5 minutes left with her powers, which worried Ira. She shouted that this wasn't funny, and she couldn't defend against all of those and cover the two of them at the same time. She immediately asked Koki if she could command her pygmies, and if so, she should make them find Murakami. She added that he was definitely in the gym, and they needed to hurry to find him so they could defeat him. In the next scene, we are shown Murakami watching everything happening inside the gym on a tablet screen, where he commented that they're really putting up a good fight. However, he said he wasn't like Koki, who was a dummy. It turns out he was doing cardio somewhere and wasn't in the gym, and he said that the second they stepped inside it, they were her. Like I know what the heck that means. We continue the story in chapter 186, titled Koki Yukishiro's Power. Here, while Rin and Ira were fighting the multitude of severed head dribblers, Ira ordered Koki to use the pygmies to find Murakami. She followed the order and immediately asked the pygmies to lend her their strength. She began crying while apologizing because she had been mean to them even though they were just trying to protect her, which the little guys happily accepted. While this was happening, we returned to Murakami, who had just finished doing cardio on a stationary bike, and shouted her fair reel twice for reasons I cannot determine. He grabbed a bottle from the table and said that you gotta work up a good sweat, or you can't enjoy the taste of a strong drink. While drinking it, he asked a woman if she agreed with what he said. It turns out this was Miss Adachi in a bunny suit.
Damn!
And when she didn't answer him and looked unhappy, Murakami pointed out that she seemed to be in a bad mood. He said he wouldn't lend her money if she continued to act this way. Suddenly, he approached her and forcefully placed his hand on the wall behind her and slowly moved closer to her while sweat and beer dripped from his mouth. He told her directly that it must be hard to take care of her mother and that she would need money to put her in a home. It was clear that Miss Adachi was only being forced to do this from her reactions. Next, while thrusting his hips, he asked if they should start. It was then shown to us that Miss Adachi was holding a talisman behind her back with the words, "By divine decree, serve even in death." After that, we were shown the building where they were, and we suddenly returned to Ira and the other situation in the gym. Here, Koki became worried because the pygmies were telling her that Murakami wasn't in this place. She said they searched every nook and cranny of the gym, but that man wasn't there. Ira cursed in frustration while fighting because they had been tricked, and she realized that from the beginning, Murakami was not in the gym. Kawabanga informed them that Rin was also reaching her limit and that she couldn't hold her powers for much longer. Ira shouted while throwing a giant severed head dribbler to be quiet and to show some honorable backbone. While watching, Koki started to feel like they were slowly getting into a bad situation, making her think that she couldn't do anything. She began to sink into the feeling that she was always like this while thinking about her past experiences, but a pygmy quickly got her attention. It turns out that they had made a grand piano using the wood around them, which surprised her. She was very puzzled about how they made it and where they got it. The pygmies seemed to be telling her something as they walked on the keys, and suddenly Kawabanga called to her and ordered her to play the piano, while Rin and Ira wondered why there was a piano in this place. Kawabanga explained to her that the pygmies were telling Koki to use her ability, which confused her. Because of this, Ira thought that it might be possible for the piano to amplify their class rep's power. Rin pleaded with Koki and also thanked her, and before long, she agreed and said she would try it. However, as she sat in front of the piano, her hands began to tremble because of her past traumas. It seemed that fear and nervousness were consuming her as she stared at it. She remembered the first time her parents gave her an electric piano and how happy they were because she could play just by listening to the notes, and her dad even called her a genius. She listened carefully to her surroundings during those times, and the keys G, B, F, and A began to sparkle. When she tried pressing the keys again, something magical happened to her, and young Koki realized that she could see the sound produced by the piano. After that, we went to the time when she started being taught how to properly play and rely on sheet music. Her teacher seemed angry because she didn't know how to read sheet music and said that she needed to make an effort to learn it. She couldn't just rely on her perfect pitch, the teacher said. If she couldn't understand the composer's intent, she wouldn't be able to properly express the music. It was drilled into her that she should perform the music precisely according to the score. Because of this, She repeatedly told herself to do that thing when she played. However, because of those teachings, her feeling when playing the piano seemed to change. She said she could no longer see the sound. In the present, when she began to play music, the tone of the keys were different from what she expected, which caught her and Ira's attention. Ira immediately asked her what she was doing and said her playing sounded messed up, which made her shout that she couldn't play it. Not like this. Ira then scolded her that they didn't have time for her complaints, so she should just start, to which she pointed out that wasn't the reason. Koki explained to Ira that this piano had pure intonation. This was the type used in classical music in medieval Europe. It wasn't the typical 440 Hz, but 432, so it couldn't be played normally just like that. Ira pointed out that she had perfect pitch, so she could just figure out the notes a step at a time, to which she argued that it was impossible. She explained she couldn't just improvise like that, while Ira continued defending her position and shouted at her that she could do it. Ira reminded her that she was a prodigy and let her know that before, all she thought about was how to defeat her. When that was all Ira could think about back then, she was able to forget the sadness she felt about losing her mother. She called her by her full name and pointed out that she was at the top because her performances seemed more fun compared to others, and it was at a level that Ira would call pure freedom. She always imagined how fun it would be to be able to play like her. When she quit the piano, Ira said she quit too. After that, she told her to bring back the feeling she had back then, her own way of playing the piano. Because of that, Koki revisited her past experiences and began to remind herself of the feeling Ira was referring to. When she tapped into this memory, she began to play with all her heart. Rin, Ira, and Kawabanga got goosebumps when they heard her way of playing the piano, and they began to feel a strong emotion. Ira commented with a worried tone about what that sound was and how heart-wrenching it was. She asked Rin if her power was being amplified by it, to which she replied with confusion that she didn't know. Kawabanga pointed out with anxiety on her face that this wasn't what she expected, that Koki's ability wasn't something that amplifies Rin's power, and it doesn't control the pygmies. After that, we were shown the city where they were, and thousands of flies began to cover the sky. As the sky was enveloped by countless flies, let us turn to the situation between Miss Adachi and Mr. Murakami. Murakami told her while carrying her that she didn't need to worry, and if money was the problem, he would provide it because, after all, he traded stocks. He aggressively threw her onto the sofa, causing Miss Adachi some pain. Murakami began doing breathing exercises before lunging at Miss Adachi, while countless jiangshi were revealed to be waiting behind him. She told herself to wait and keep Mr. Murakami busy for as long as possible, since she still doesn't know his power. And when he drops his guard, only then will she order her jiangshi to attack. Suddenly a fly flew near Murakami's ear, and Miss Adachi seemed troubled when she noticed it. Murakami became irritated and shouted that he had thrown out the trash yesterday, but his anger quickly disappeared and was replaced by widened eyes from shock when he saw the numerous jiangshi and flies behind him. Next, we suddenly returned to Ira's group's situation, where they were screaming in fear and disgust because of the numerous insects emerging in their surroundings, while Koki continued playing the piano. Ira asked what was happening and why these insects were swarming everything. Kawabanga answered that Koki's ability wasn't to amplify Rin's singing, nor was it the power to control pygmies. Her power, she said, was the ability to make small living things obey her, the Lord of the Flies. After that, we returned to Miss Adachi, where thousands of flies began swarming around Murakami's body, causing him to scream in anger. He said they were entering every opening they could access, which made him question what was going on with these insects. Miss Adachi was also puzzled about why and what was happening because it wasn't her power causing it. Before long, she realized this was her chance to defeat Murakami, so she quickly reached into the cut on her chest and pulled out a Kozuka knife. She pointed it at Murakami and shouted for him to accept his defeat. While commenting on his audacity, she said she would let him live, but if he didn't decide quickly, there were no guarantees. Murakami angrily said that she was behind all of this and asked if it was true that she was also collecting powers, while Miss Adachi continued threatening him to hurry up and admit his defeat before he dies. Nevertheless, Murakami didn't give up and despite being covered in countless flies, he tried to reach Miss Adachi, who was shouting at him to hurry up and do what she wanted. Before long, Murakami managed to grab Miss Adachi's hand, which made her extremely nervous. But unexpectedly, Murakami gradually admitted his defeat and afterwards slowly released her hand, whereupon letting go, his finger was cut in the process. Because of this, a strange aura began circling around Miss Adachi's body and entered the Kozuka knife she was holding. After that, a symbol appeared beside the knife, signifying severed head dribble. Miss Adachi stared at the Kozuka knife, but Murakami quickly got her attention when he began begging her to help him. She immediately swept away the swarming flies from his body and also ordered her Jiangshi to help. When they could see Murakami's body, Miss Adachi shouted at him to hold on. However, he couldn't remove his hands from the openings on his face because the flies might enter. Because of this, the flies managed to break the window and lift Murakami out of his condo unit. While this was happening, we returned once more to Ira and her group, and they were stunned because the severed head dribblers and the numerous insects in their surroundings suddenly vanished. Koki then lost strength and collapsed to the floor, so Ira and her companions quickly approached and carried her. Ira told her to be strong, to which she replied that she was okay and just felt a little dizzy. Ira then asked what had happened because their opponents suddenly disappeared, to which Rin said she didn't know, and they also didn't know where Mr. Murakami was. Shortly after, countless flies suddenly entered through the gym's glass window, which startled them. Ira quickly transformed and shielded her friends to protect them. The flies caught Ira's attention when they placed something down, and that's when they saw Murakami. They looked at each other eye to eye, which gave both parties extreme shock. Murakami was completely bewildered when he noticed he was in the gym and asked what he was doing there. He added the question of why the three of them were still at school at this hour, to which Ira seriously greeted him good evening. Murakami tried to make excuses by saying how strange it was because he was just at home about to take a bath, then suddenly found himself here. He said mysterious phenomena really do happen, which supposedly surprised him. Afterward, he began walking away from them while saying that the three of them should also go home because it was dark outside. However, Ira didn't let this slide and kicked him in the face, which sent him flying. She called him a pukey pig bastard and angrily asked if he had nothing to say to them. Murakami quickly said yes, and that he would delete Koki's pictures and it wouldn't be a problem, so could they please stop this here. He reasoned that if they made this issue any bigger, it wouldn't look good for them either because what they were discussing were dirty pictures, to which Ira seriously told him that his assumption was wrong and that the pictures weren't what they wanted to discuss. What they wanted to hear from him, she said, is more along the lines of him saying that he'll be off to the pen now. The pig pen, that is. As she was saying this, she gave Murakami a solid kick to the face that shook the past, present, and future of this pervert. In the next scene, we move to outside the gym, where Okarun and Sakata were being chased by the human alien and Hase. While running, Sakata shouted, asking what kind of creatures those were. Here we also saw Hase's transformation after he obtained his power from a yokai. Using the rings on his feet, he jumped repeatedly to gain speed, so it wasn't long before he managed to catch up to Okarun. Upon getting close to him, he immediately gave him a double flying kick, but fortunately, Okarun was wearing nano bracers with airbags inside, so he didn't crash into the wall. Afterward, he quickly stood up and returned the airbags to his arm and started running again. He shouted at Sakata that they couldn't fight those beings using only airbags, to which Sakata, while also running, shouted back for him to be quiet and that this wasn't the time for that. He also ordered him to get the enemy's attention and lead them away from him. Okarun then said they needed to find Rin and Ira to ensure they were safe, to which Sakata again pointed out that this wasn't the time for that. Because of this, Okarun became irritated and asked what a space alien was doing in this place. He was also surprised about why Hase was targeting him. When Okarun and Sakata had gotten a bit further away, Hase reverted to his human form and, gasping for breath, said that transforming was extremely tiring and it would have been better if he didn't have to wear it on his feet. He then spoke to the human-like alien and ordered her to stop flying around because she was getting in his way. He said her target should be the Lardass, as he put it, but the alien ignored him while fiddling with the buttons on her arm. Inside the exosuit, The female alien was commenting that this suit was difficult to use, which also irritated her toward Count Saint-Germain. Hase tried again to get her attention and pointed out that weren't they both after the same thing, which was stealing Okarun's abilities. Then, while transforming back into his yokai form, Hase also said that all he wanted to do was to kick the shit out of Okarun, so the alien could have his abilities. He also seriously said that she should not get in his way, and if she didn't comply, she would die. While he was scolding the alien, Sakata quickly approached Okarun and, while applying nanoskin to his body, said that now was their chance because those two had stopped momentarily. After Sakata had molded what he was putting on Okarun, he asked what it was. Sakata shouted at him not to touch the equipment because he had put so much effort into making that gear, to which he agreed. Sakata explained to him that he had placed verniers on the back and pile bunkers on the legs. He then asked what Sakata would be wearing, to which Sakata arrogantly said that he shouldn't worry about that, because his suit was the Great Kinta. Okarun was surprised by the beauty of his suit's appearance, so he asked why his own wasn't complete. Sakata answered that their nanoskin was limited, so he should stop complaining, to which Okarun irritably pointed out that his body was half exposed. In the situation of the two enemies, Hase continued pointing out to the human-like alien that he would target Okarun, but the alien still wasn't paying attention to him, and after saying ready, she quickly charged towards Sakata and Okarun. Because of this, Sakata shouted for them to prepare, but when he tried to give the human-like alien a blast wind thrust attack, it easily evaded him and gave Okarun a flying kick to the body. Okarun was surprised when he didn't feel any pain, which also caught the alien's attention. Sakata commented, asking if he could now see how his mighty creative power shines. He explained that since the last Great War, he had been thinking hard about how to improve the Great Kinta. He said that this robot was truly badass and powerful, but it was extremely weak once it got hit. So, he started walking around every day carrying a paperweight to force his body to become familiar with the hardness of steel. Okarun commented that was the reason why his suit was so heavy and difficult to move, which made Sakata worry. He was concerned about this and said he hadn't noticed when it was still a giant robot, but now that the Great Kinta was human-sized, its movements were slow. While he was still distracted, Hase took this opportunity to give Sakata a solid double flying kick to the face, which sent him flying. Okarun turned and became worried about this, while the human-like alien continued her attack on him. Irritated, Okarun asked the alien why she was attacking him again, to which the human-like alien responded that he stole everything from her. He said that they were the ones who first stole his jewel, to which the alien added that he also stole her reason to live. While remembering the leader alien, she told Okarun that they destroyed their planet, which confused him. She pointed out that she joined them so she could kill their emperor, and after almost 100 years, she finally became Haster's right hand. However, she claimed Okarun ruined her plan. While continuing to attack, she asked if he could understand her suffering and frustration, to which Okarun answered that none of that meant anything to him. He countered after that, and using the rocket on his back, he propelled himself toward the alien's body, and after it pushed him away, it tried to punch him. However, he managed to prepare again, and when he positioned his 2 feet on it, he used his pile bunkers, which solidly hit its body. They both were thrown back from each other, but they quickly raised their bodies. Okarun tried to talk to the alien and said she should stop because he wasn't her enemy, to which the alien only responded that her current goal was to kill him and then die afterward. While the alien was saying this, we were shown what seemed to be an imagination or memory, where there was a couple kissing as the sun was setting. After that, the human-like alien continued her assault on Okarun while showing us a scene of a couple. We were suddenly shown a creepy incident where countless aliens seemed to be dragging a female alien who was in tears while trying to reach for something. Returning to the battle, the human-like alien delivered a triple kick combo to Okarun's body, to which he countered by using his verniers, forcefully pushing back against the human-like alien. The alien opened her helmet, and to prevent Okarun from pushing her back, she bit Okarun's right arm. Okarun screamed in pain, but he quickly regained his composure and countered with a solid pile bunkers attack to the alien's body. When he examined the alien closely, he was shocked. As he stared at it, He was surprised because he had thought he was fighting the octopus alien or the leader alien. The human-like alien closed her helmet again, and while Okarun was still distracted, she attacked with a side kick that hit Okarun's right arm. Okarun screamed from the extreme pain in his arm, since it was the same one the alien had bitten earlier. He also became concerned when he touched his nanoskin suit. On the alien's side, a circular disc suddenly protruded from her left thigh and began spinning rapidly, creating what looked like a halo around it. Even the wings on her back developed similar rings. After preparing, she gained momentum using her left leg and delivered an incredibly powerful kick to Okarun that released a projectile. The force of this attack obliterated Okarun's durable nanoskin, sending him rolling across the ground. Hase turned toward them after repelling Sakata, and he was irritated with the alien. Just as the human-like alien was charging toward Okarun to follow up, Hase suddenly intervened between them, stopping the alien. He angrily called her an asshole and pointed out that he had told her that he would be the one to beat up Okarun, which also annoyed the human-like alien. Hase began to gather momentum to launch an attack, while saying that if the alien got in his way again, he would beat her up instead. After preparing, Hase delivered a powerful kick to the alien that sent her flying upward, but his attack didn't end there, as he quickly jumped multiple times to get behind the alien. Once he reached that position, he clenched his legs, and when the alien made contact with him, he released the tremendous force accumulated in his legs, causing them to crash to the ground. The impact of Hase's attack was so strong that it cracked the ground and buried the human-like alien. The alien screamed in pain while Hase seemed to have gone mad with rage, repeatedly delivering drop kicks. While this was happening, Sakata saw Okarun lying on the ground and immediately asked if he was okay, to which Okarun replied that he was sorry because he had touched the gear. Irritated, Sakata called him a clumsy bastard for destroying the gear he had worked so hard to make, which made Okarun apologize even more. Next, Sakata said so be it. Since the situation had escalated to this point, they needed to merge. Okarun was puzzled by what he said, so he pointed out that if they merged, they would become stronger. Okarun shouted to wait and asked what exactly he meant because they weren't actual robots, to which Sakata objected by saying that was a poison mindset. While controlling the nanoskins, he said they were robots, but quickly retracted it and said that he himself was the robot, which confused Okarun about what he was talking about. He pulled Okarun into the Great Kinta while saying it was time to merge, causing Okarun to scream in fear. Sakata called upon the creative powers to unite with him, while Okarun was yelping in pain saying he's going to dislocate his shoulders. Nevertheless, this didn't stop Sakata from being in the zone as he shouted that this was the Great Merging. Before long, their merging was complete, and the appearance of the Great Kinta changed, gaining what looked like a more muscular upper body where Sakata was positioned, and a skirt-like lower body where Okarun was located in the crotch area. Okarun screamed at this and pointed out that their merging was basically just him carrying Sakata on his shoulders, while Sakata became angry because his creative powers were so weak. He explained that this design is totally lame, to which Okarun questioned what difference that would make. Next, Sakata said that he was the most skilled at controlling the Great Kinta, but Okarun was the one used to combat. He explained that to keep up with the movements of their enemies, they needed his sharp visual acuity and quick reflexes. While they were talking, we returned to Hase beating up the human-like alien. After repelling her one last time, he laughingly said that the alien was a noob. He also angrily shouted at her to stay the hell out of his way. Suddenly, he noticed something in front of him, which turned out to be Sakata and Okarun, who had attempted to punch him after seeing an opening. While dodging, Hase asked what he was looking at and told them to make sure they weren't thinking this was a joke, while Sakata was concerned because their attack hadn't landed. As a follow-up, he instructed Okarun to use their verniers, which he immediately did. Because of this, they were able to parry Hase's counter, earning Okarun praise from Sakata. Sakata followed up their attack with a blast wind thrust attack, which forced Hase to retreat. Out of irritation, Hase called Okarun a bastard and asked what he was doing there. He told him to hurry up and use his powers. While repelling the Great Kinta, Hase added, asking if Okarun couldn't also use powers like these. Okarun called to Sakata and said that they had become heavier because of their merging. It was difficult to move, and the gear was completely wrecked. He shouted that merging had made them weaker, which Sakata found hard to believe. While they're still distracted, Hase took this opportunity to deliver another solid attack to them. He angrily called Okarun a bastard and told him to make sure he wasn't underestimating him. He added that Okarun wouldn't get away with this because he should be at the very bottom of the pile. On Okarun's side, he repeated that they had become weaker, which Sakata rejected, arguing that merging equals strength. As a counter, he tried to use a blast wind thrust attack on Hase, but Hase easily stopped it with his muscular legs. In an instant, the force of his attack rebounded and seemed to double as it shattered Sakata's punching arm, which alarmed him. He quickly thought to control the nanoskin, and because of that, he immediately restored it to normal and fixed it. Hase cursed in frustration and commented that this was a pain in the ass. Next, he tried to gain momentum and jumped quickly towards Sakata. But as he got close to them, he didn't expect they would be ready, so the pile bunker's attack from the two hit him solidly. He was repelled and shouted again in anger at Okarun. He asked if Okarun thought he could kick him, and pointed out that Okarun was the most worthless creature. Sakata praised Okarun again for what he did, which Okarun brushed off, saying they weren't doing much damage like this. Sakata wondered what he meant by like this, so he asked if Okarun could create stronger weapons, to which Sakata replied that they barely had enough parts for that. Okarun then pointed out that wasn't the Great Kinta's face too detailed. He suggested that Sakata simplify it to make more weapons, to which Sakata arrogantly asked if Okarun was some kind of moron.
What?
He explained that if a robot's face lacked coolness, why would he want to pilot it, which made Okarun shout that this wasn't the time for that. Sakata disagreed and shouted that that's where Okarun was wrong. He said that passion was more important, and added that it's because he has this passion that he was bestowed the power of inspiration. After that, while shouting passion with all his heart, he tried to deliver a left straight toward Hase. However, his passion did nothing, and Hase easily kicked them upward just like he did to the human-like alien earlier. The two of them screamed in pain from the damage they sustained, while Hase immediately gained momentum to follow up his attack. He shouted that Okarun, a bottom feeder acting all high and mighty, was not getting away with this. After clenching his legs, he jumped toward the two and repeatedly did it like an incredibly fast rocket, causing the gradual destruction of the Great Kinta. He showed his extreme anger by not stopping his assault on Okarun and Sakata until their nanosuit was completely destroyed. He also said that freaking lowlifes like Okarun trying to stand up to him at all gives him the creeps. After saying that, he kicked the two upward with all his strength, leaving their bodies exposed. He followed it with a spin kick, and while he was doing that, Okarun stared at him. Suddenly, Okarun remembered a scene where Hase was bothering him while he was reading a magazine. Hase took what he was reading without warning and commented that it was wild and that Okarun was apparently a conspiracy nut. He added that Okarun gave him the creeps, and his friends started laughing. Hase brought his face close to Okarun's and teasingly said that people who believe this kind of shit are better off dead. Okarun didn't say anything in response, so Hase repeatedly tried to get his attention and asked if he was listening. After recalling this, Okarun suddenly grabbed Hase in the present while shouting passion. Irritated, Hase called him an asshole and ordered him to stop hugging him because it gave him the creeps. However, he didn't let go of him and said that he's the one who's not letting Hase get away with this. He pointed out that up until now, they were told they didn't exist, but now the US government has officially acknowledged the existence of UFOs. He added that Project MKUltra, the Tuskegee syphilis experiment, and Operation Mockingbird all happened too. Next, he called to Sakata and immediately ordered him to merge, to which Sakata shouted epic heroism. Before long, they created a new suit using the nanoskin that looked like an upgraded jetpack with restraints on Hase's feet, which caused him to be locked in place. Hase became concerned when he couldn't move his legs, while Sakata arrogantly asked Okarun what he had said earlier about their epic merging. They began flying to extreme heights, while Okarun answered Sakata by saying that because of their merging they had become slower and heavier and weaker. Sakata still couldn't believe it and asked if what Okarun was saying was that merging makes them heavier, while Hase was furiously telling them to release him. After that, Sakata pointed out that Okarun was completely wrong, which made Okarun ask where, to which Sakata answered about them being weaker, while Hase continued trying to escape from his restraints. When they reached the extreme heights, they stopped there and Sakata said that if they merge, it's actually what makes them stronger. Hase screamed out of concern for himself, and soon they quickly flew down to the ground, causing Hase's body to be buried in the earth, and the force of that impact caused the shaking of his past, present, and future. Smoke enveloped where they landed, and when it cleared, we were shown Hase in his normal form and unconscious. Meanwhile, the severely beaten human-like alien slowly stood up near them, and after seeing Hase, decided to fly away from the scene. Inside the smoke, Sakata and Okarun stood, and Sakata suddenly commented that he was giving Okarun permission, which made Okarun ask what it was for. With their arms around each other's shoulders and giving a thumbs up, Sakata said it was for calling him Colonel, which Okarun just brushed off. In the next scene, we shifted to Miss Adachi, and here she went to the embankment under overpass because it was ordered by the orchestrator after she reported that she had obtained a power. Upon arriving, she saw a creepy individual standing under the bridge. Slowly and reluctantly, she approached him, and the nervousness was visible on her face as she did so. The individual, who looked like a skinny scientist, turned to look at her. Not long after, his appearance was shown to us, and upon seeing Miss Adachi, he raised his hand as if asking for something. Miss Adachi stared at him, but her attention was suddenly drawn away when someone called her phone. When she checked, there was no caller ID, but she answered it anyway. The orchestrator on the other end praised her for working hard while addressing her as Miss Mika Adachi. She then explained that she had obtained a power and that it was now with her, and she asked what she should do with it. The orchestrator answered that unfortunately, Takashi Murakami, the man she had attacked, was actually someone like her, which confused her and immediately made her ask what he meant by that. The mystery guy explained that that man was also collecting powers just like her. Miss Adachi was shocked upon learning that and could not believe it, while the orchestrator merely commented that it was unfortunate. However, he added that it was curious because he was the one who designated the targets, and he had never pointed out Murakami as one, so he asked Miss Adachi why she attacked him. Miss Adachi answered that it was because she sensed something unusual about him and assumed he had powers. When she was just about to tell the orchestrator that next time she would not act on her own, he cut her off and said that this time she actually did nothing. The orchestrator explained that the one who defeated Murakami was the person powered by the Lord of the Flies, and all she did was pick up the leftovers, and by mistake at that. So, the orchestrator decided to disqualify Miss Adachi and ordered her to hand over her Kozuka knife to the man in front of her. He also said that Miss Adachi would be required to return the power that had been given to her. Miss Adachi tried to talk to the orchestrator, saying that she promised she would do it right next time, but again he cut her off and said that it was beyond her. The orchestrator explained that in order to take away a person's abilities, it is necessary to make them surrender from the bottom of their heart, but there is nothing stronger or harder to understand than the human heart. He added that a person with marvelous power would have an ID cosmos that does not even fear death. Moreover, he said that in order to defeat such a person, it is necessary to thoroughly attack the people around them, such as their relatives and friends. He also pointed out that Miss Adachi has a kind heart, so she could never be so cruel. Miss Adachi shouted to the orchestrator to wait and said that she could do it, pleading to be given another chance because she needed to help her sick mother. However, out of the blue, the creepy and skinny man in front of her suddenly struck her in the face with his briefcase, causing her to fall to the ground and her nose to bleed. After that, the man climbed on top of her and, while raising his briefcase, told her to accept her defeat. However, she could only shield herself with her arms, so the man kept trying to strike her in the face over and over again. She tried to tell him to stop, but he ignored her and continued hitting her while repeatedly telling her to accept her defeat. Miss Adachi struggled desperately to block every blow, and she began to tear up from the intense pain. With nothing else she could do, she remembered her sick mother, which made her cry even more. Fortunately, a certain individual suddenly kicked the creepy man in the face, sending him flying to the other side. The shock was clearly visible on Miss Adachi's face when it happened, and while the person who helped her was approaching, He seemed to be informing someone that he had encountered an incident resulting in injury. It turns out that policeman Bega the demon had arrived, and he was speaking through his walkie-talkie. He also added that he was requesting immediate assistance at the location embankment under the overpass. Bega then pulled out his police baton, catching the attention of the man. At the same time, a strange tendril emerged from the man's back, revealing that he was using the powers of the fairy tale card. Bega was shocked when he saw it and shouted that he remembered it, while the man seemed to notice that something bad was about to happen. He said that the fairy tale card would not work on this officer and that there could be no worse misfortune than encountering him at this moment. Because of that, he decided to just use the powers of the fairy tale card on Miss Adachi, where it easily took effect on her. When he gained control over Miss Adachi, he ordered her to charge toward Bega, which caught him by surprise. However, Bega easily restrained Miss Adachi by grabbing her arm and kicking her legs out to make her fall flat onto the ground. When he did that, he noticed that Miss Adachi's mind had returned to normal, which caught his attention. When he turned back to the creepy man, he saw that he suddenly vanished right in front of them, so he immediately informed his fellow police officers about what had happened. While that was happening, we shifted over to the airport. Here, Seiko was telling Manjiro that she was entrusting their place to him for now, to which he replied that he understood her. He asked her to be careful and to take a painkiller every 6 hours. He said that it would dull her senses because of that and pointed out that she had broken ribs, to which Seiko replied that she knew. Meanwhile, Momo was shouting at Vamola while riding on her shoulders, asking if she could hear her. Gigi heard her, so he asked her what the problem was. She said that Vamola had not been responding to her for a while now, almost as if she could no longer see her. Because of that, she thought that perhaps her curse was worsening. At this rate, she said that she might end up like the pygmies, where no one would be able to see her anymore. While she was saying this, we were shown Okarun and the gang reuniting after each of them had fought their respective battles. Gigi then asked Vamola if she could see Momo on her shoulder, where Vamola looked at him in confusion and asked what he was talking about again, which made Momo anxious. Momo tried to get Vamola's attention by waving her hands and shouting at her to look at her, but it had no effect. Gigi then informed Seiko about what was happening and said that this was bad, that Momo's curse was getting worse, but Seiko only looked at him curiously and stared. Momo and Gigi became even more worried because even her grandmother could no longer remember her, so Gigi tried reminding Seiko about Momo and why they were at the airport. He explained that they were about to leave for Shimane to help Momo return to her normal size, but Seiko just got a headache while she was trying to remember it. Then Zuma's companion caught their attention, asking for help while carrying Daiki on his back. He worriedly said that Zuma's vision is almost completely gone, and that Daiki could no longer walk, and that he did not have any more free hands left to help. Because of that, Seiko ordered Vamola to hold Zuma's hand, to which she happily agreed. She started guiding Zuma along the path, while Zuma apologized about it. The concern was clear on Gigi and Momo's faces as they watched. After that, Gigi invited Momo to come with him and travel together, so she jumped into his hand. He explained to her that his spiritual powers were strong, so maybe he could sense her better than the others. He also comforted her by saying that everything would be all right and promised her that he would never forget her. He added that he would watch her nonstop, and with tears in her eyes, Momo believed him. On the other side, while Zuma's companion was carrying Daiki, he told him to just hold on and that he just needed to be patient a little longer. Daiki looked at him and suddenly asked why he was helping him, calling him Raya. He said that the first time they met, Raya had tried to beat him up with a stick. Raya then explained that at that time, he thought it was Daiki's fault that Zuma was in trouble. Because of that, Daiki asked if that meant he was going to beat him up for Zuma's sake, where Raya apologized to him and told him not to hold that against him. After that, he asked why Raya would go that far just for Zuma, so Raya questioned his question of why, and pointed out that Zuma had helped him too. He explained to Daiki that he had been bullied back then, and Zuma was the one who came to his rescue. He said that Zuma had been super pissed off at the time, but he was kind to his friends and never left anyone behind. Furthermore, he added that all the people who gathered around Zuma were people who also had problems, whether at home or at school. After explaining that, We then returned to a time when Zuma smacked a juice box that looked like an energy drink along with a bunch of capsules out of the hand of one of his female gang members, the one with the colored bangs, if you remember. Because of that, the girl got furious and asked what the hell was he doing, but Zuma simply told Raya to watch over that dummy and make sure she did not take any of that stuff. The girl screamed at him that it was none of his freaking business, to which Raya told her to just leave it and explained that what she was taking could kill her, but the girl angrily said who cares. Then she questioned what was the point of being alive while looking at Zuma. Zuma stopped walking when he heard that. The girl said that she could not do things that were normal for everyone else. She said people would ask why she could not even manage to do that much, but thought how would she know the answer to that. She said that her parents had given up on her and that they only saw her as an embarrassment. She said she could not even keep up with her classmates. Tears started falling from the girl's eyes as she talked about her painful experience, saying that it's no fun at all. Shock was visible in Raya's eyes upon hearing that, and Zuma turned back to look at her. He apologized to the girl, but explained that there's nothing he can do for her. He said he had no idea how to help her, but added that as long as she's here, it will be fun for them. He explained that the way she would just join in and make everyone laugh. He could not do that. Whenever she got sad, she should just come here, but she should not use those things anymore. Those words struck the hearts of the two of them and gave them a warm feeling at that moment. And after explaining that, we returned to the present where Raya was saying that the world moves too fast. He explained that they want to keep up, but they cannot, even though they try their best. While showing us what happened to the girl and her parents, he added that what they really wanted was to be forgiven. They just wanted someone to tell them that they were okay. He pointed out that Zuma saved them all and that they needed him, so they would do anything for him. After that, while they continued walking through the airport, a female reporter on a news channel explained that on a road near Mabashi Station, a vehicle transporting men who were currently detained and standing trial for murder, kidnapping, and other crimes had been attacked. Some of the men escaped, and their names were Juichi Kido, Jihiko Kido, and Jamanio Kido. Sound familiar? Yes. They are the men who once tried to touch Momo at the public bath. After that, a group called out to their mother, pointed at Seiko's group, and shouted that there they were. The mother looked at Gigi and commented that she had been wanting to see that boy for a long time, and then added that she could not see the other one, which was Momo. It turns out that the Kido family was also at the airport, and was currently looking for Momo. Maki explained that the scent from Momo's jacket had led them here, so she thought Momo must be nearby. While preparing to board the same plane where Momo's group was about to board, she commented that she was looking forward to it and said it was time for a little air travel.